Celine has finally arrived on the scene with Celica. Alright, so Celica is one of the first emblems you get in the game, and you shortly lose her in chapter 11. Then you get her back after chapter 20. So Celica is arguably one of Celine's best emblems on Vidam, because Celine's speed isn't the best, and Celica allows her to do something. Alright, so now this build is a speed plus 5 speed taker build, because she needs the speed. If we look at her base speed, 24, that's respectable, but for endgame, even with plus 5 speed, she's at 29 speed. She'll double a lot of slower things, but the medium speed thing she's not going to double, and that's where she can run into trouble. So we're running speed taker to patch that up, and also there's a specific reason why we're using Celica. So Celica gives you a book that makes you effective against corrupted. Now, this thing allows Celine to one round, and it's also lightweight, so this allows her to just put out huge damage and kill. Now, she can also echo with it, and in some cases, double one round, like in other words, kill 2 things per turn. In this case, she's not able to kill these per turn, but if we had enough chain attacks, we easily could, so that's something to consider. Also, let's see the bonus damage factors in. I think it does have it, so I think it'd just be like 51 damage. We'll see. It might multiply it. Okay, so it actually does multiply it. Or I'm sorry, that's not echo. Here we go. There we go. Alright, so it gives her a little bit more damage to work with. The plus 3 damage from standing next to a layer. But this build can be effective when you have like chain attacks or dual assists that are on your team so that they can take off more health. But in this case, she can at least put 2 things down to one-shot range, or at the very least, just go for Seraphim kills. Now, obviously, she's going to kill these armors. These guys are a little bit too fast for her. Let's just look at the kind of damage she can deal here. She's going to have to speed take her a bit. Now, as she gets the bond up, she'll get more magic, so if I do the paralog, I can get more magic, which gives me more effective damage. So if she were to double this, she would kill it. She almost kills it here. Now, one-rounding armors with magic is not very impressive either, but these are armors with very high health, so even with Levin Sword and Sword Power 1, she would not be one-rounding these. She would need like Sword Power 3 or 4. So it's not terrible. Now, Celine Vidam is a hard unit to get going in terms of killing. It's generally slow, so speed fixing it is almost mandatory. If you run something like Lyn, she's going to need damage fixed. Now, the huge advantage of running Celica is the Seraphim damage. Now, as she starts speed taking, she'll be able to one-round anything she attacks, which is pretty good, I would say, because it takes what is usually a staff bot utility unit and converts it into a damage carry. In a way, she's definitely not as good as like an Ivy, an Anna, a Pandreo, but she can still put in work. Like if you were to run this on those units, they'd probably just do it better because they're faster at base, so they need less speed fixing. But you could also run her on Mage Knight. Now obviously this is a Royals only run I'm doing. I'm just demoing all the builds now. And after a chapter or 2, I can see this being a decent thing. Now you can also upgrade Seraphim to get +1 speed, so that it boosts her speed slightly, so that like every little bit helps. But right now she's at 29 speed, and then after speed taking she'll be at 39 speed. So basically, as long as she's engaged, she'll one-round anything she attacks, and if she goes for attacks with her other weapons, she can Thoron poke. If she were to double with this Levin Sword, she would do 40 damage here. And this is a fast enemy, so she's not going to have the best hit rates, and this is not an engraved Levin Sword either. She also does have this L-Fire for doubling, so that's, you know, it's a lighter weight weapon with Celica engraving to reduce the weight even further. She's kind of a hard unit to get into one-round thresholds, so this is probably one of the few ways she can get there, and that's with Seraphim's effective versus corrupted damage. Now, on paralogs, this is not going to be the best build, because the remnants, or whatever the hell they're called, those dudes, they are not corrupted. The mock soldiers that are created by the emblem rings, they are just like this other thing. Corrupted effectiveness does not work on them. But for endgame maps, she can pop off a little bit. Now, pretty much any unit using Celica with good magic stat can one-round with Seraphim. That is true. But if you want to use Celine on Vidam, this is one of the best builds for her. Now, obviously, I could run Sigurd and go for like an override here. That could be an option too. But if you just want something, let's say you have other units that want to deal with these, this is a specific formation. Like, these are already lined up that basically are begging to be like overrided, torrential, whatever, dance comboed to death, or enemy phase with bonded. Like, there's so many things you can do to kill these. But, you know, one rounding isn't bad. So, as the fight goes on, it'll be probably better than Sigurd, because she'll at least be able to consistently double in one round. If I switch her to Sigurd, she'll have 42 magic attack, or I'm sorry, she won't have 42 magic attack. She's +3 magic. She'll have 39 magic attack on Levin Sword. She'll need the Speed Taker to double things. Sigurd does help with build. The Levin Sword just slows her down, so she would basically just be at like 26, 27 speed. So it's not the best thing, but it does have some utility in like the Levin Sword override. Just for the hell of it, let's just check that out. This build should get better as she speed takes, so it's one of those things. We'll switch her over. We'll see how good it is. I'm skeptical that at 1 rounds, 20% bonus damage on a single hit of a Levin Sword. It probably will put good damage on them. Sigurd. All right, let's try this. She was using Sigurd this whole time until then, like until now. All right, so let's try an override. Yeah, so she doesn't kill. Even with sword power 5, she would just do 48 damage here. It does good damage, but setting up kills, if all of your units 1 round, setting up kills doesn't really matter unless you have like a second AoE attack. So unfortunately, this isn't really that good either. I think the other build's better because you can hit 1 rounding thresholds easier. Yeah, even with doubling, she would have to have sword power to kill here, and right now she has so much speed fixing. She could drop Speed Taker or speed +5 and just run one or the other. These armors are slow. This specific map starts you off with slow armors. Very few maps have slow armors around. They're usually like medium speed enemies. Like usually you're fighting things like this. Like this is like your average enemy. This is more of a stand-in. This is like a kind of exception where immediately you're fighting slow armors. Usually you're fighting like things like this or things like this. But that being said, the Celica build does 1 round fairly consistently, and with speed +5 and speed taker, you can get her to doubling thresholds pretty easily. And the other things she can have a Thoron on her, you can use Elfire or Levin Sword, any combination of these is fine. She can also have a physical sword. Another nice thing about Celica is you can put a physical sword on her, and Celica increases strength. So it plays into her like hybrid class because she still has strength. She has enough strength that if you were to take a physical sword and whack an enemy mage with it, if you double that mage, you probably will 1 round it off of physical damage. So if you want to target defense, you can, and if you want to target res, you can. The effective corrupted damage is probably enough to kill through high res anyways, so you don't need to really care about that if you're engaged. But if you want to have her run like some kind of sword, like steel sword, silver sword, or not no auton, what is it? Folkvanger? Yeah, Folkvanger. She could run that. I'm using that in a different build right now, but she could run Folkvanger as like a physical sword and probably run that most of the game. If you want to have her run Folkvanger with Levin Sword, Thoron for poking, Levin Sword for 1 rounding armors, and 1 rounding when possible, and then Folkvanger for just smacking enemies in general, because she actually has decent strength. She's not so weak that like she can't put in work with her strength. So if you want to get her sword power, you could run Folkvanger and Levin Sword. That's like another option. But I feel like she would want like Lyn and then like Canter and sword power. I think that's an interesting build for her, actually. Oh, I shouldn't have spoiled that. I actually want to make that now. All right, so that's it for this one. That's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this or found this interesting. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.